Hi everyone. Scharnhorst served as a flagship of the German Kriegsmarine, alternatively categorized as either a battleship or battlecruiser, during the era of Nazi Germany. She was the inaugural vessel of her class, which also included her sister ship, Gneisenau. Construction of the ship took place at the Kriegsmarinewerft shipyard in Wilhelmshaven. Her keel was laid on June 15, 1935, and she was launched a year and 4 months later on October 3, 1936. By January 1939, the ship had been fully constructed and outfitted with a primary armament comprising 9 28 cm, 11-inch C-34 guns arranged in 3 triple turrets. Throughout the early stages of World War II, Scharnhorst and Gneisenau frequently operated in tandem. Construction details. Scharnhorst's displacement measured 32,100 long tons at standard conditions and 38,100 long tons at full load. She boasted an overall length of 234.9 meters, a beam of 30 meters, and a maximum draft of 9.9 meters. The vessel was propelled by 3 Brown, Bavarian sea-geared steam turbines, generating a combined output of 159,551 shp, enabling her to achieve a top speed of 31.5 knots, approximately 58.3 km per hour during speed trials. The standard crew complement encompassed 56 officers and 1,613 enlisted personnel. Additionally, when functioning as a squadron flagship, Scharnhorst accommodated 10 extra officers and 61 more enlisted individuals. Equipped with a primary armament of 9 28 cm guns, arranged in 3 triple gun turrets, the ship's forward turrets, Anton and Bruno employed a superfiring configuration, while the aft turret, Caesar, was positioned towards the stern. Her secondary armament comprised 12 15 cm L55 guns, with 8 placed in dual-gun turrets and the remaining 4 housed in single turrets. For anti-aircraft defense, Scharnhorst featured 14 10.5 cm L65 guns, 16 3.7 cm SKC-30 L83 guns, and initially 10 2 cm C-30 anti-aircraft guns, though the number of 2 cm guns was later increased to 38. In 1942, the installation of 6 53.3 cm above water torpedo tubes further augmented her offensive capabilities. Scharnhorst's armor scheme included a belt with a thickness of 350 mm, 13.8 inches in the central area, offering protection to vital spaces like ammunition magazines and machinery compartments. The ship incorporated an armored deck, ranging from 20 to 40 mm in thickness on the flat portion and escalating to 105 mm on downward sloping sides connecting to the belt's lower edge. The main battery turrets were fortified with 360 mm, 14 inches of frontal armor and 200 mm on the sides. The conning tower was shielded by 350 mm of armor on its sides. Commanding officers. Upon her commissioning, Kapitän Otto Ciliax assumed command of the Scharnhorst. However, his time at the helm was brief. Due to illness, he went on sick leave in September 1939, leading to his replacement by KZS Kurt Caesar Hoffmann. Hoffmann commanded the ship until 1942. By April 1, 1942, Hoffmann, having been promoted to Konteradmiral and awarded the Knight's Cross, relinquished command to KZS Friedrich Hufmeier. As Scharnhorst's final mission approached in October 1943, shortly before the ship's last engagement, KZS Fritz Hinze took over from Hufmeier. Tragically, Hinze lost his life during the ship's ultimate battle. Scharnhorst was initially designated as Ersatz Elsass, intended to replace the aging pre-dreadnought Elsass, under the codename D. The ship's launch took place on October 3, 1936, with Adolf Hitler and Generalfeldmarschall Werner von Blomberg in attendance. Subsequent to her launch, fitting out work continued, and by January 1939, all preparations were finalized. Scharnhorst officially joined the fleet on January 9 for sea trials, which exposed a concerning tendency to take on substantial amounts of water in rough seas. This led to flooding in the bow and damage to the electrical systems in the forward gun turret. Consequently, the ship returned to the shipyard for extensive bow modification. The original straight stem was replaced with an elevated Atlantic bow, and during the reconstruction, a slanted funnel cap was installed, along with an enlarged aircraft hangar. Additionally, the mainmast was repositioned further aft. These modifications were completed by November 1939, by which point the ship was fully operational. The ship's inaugural operation commenced on November 21, 1939. Scharnhorst, accompanied by her sister ship Gneisenau, was tasked with patrolling the region between Iceland and the Faroe Islands. The objective was to entice British units and alleviate the pressure on the heavy cruiser Admiral Graf Spee, which was under pursuit in the South Atlantic. Departing Wilhelmshaven with the light cruisers Köln and Leipzig, as well as 3 destroyers, the destroyers split off for Scharnhorst operations on the morning of November 22. The German battleships intercepted the British armed merchant cruiser Rawalpindi on the following day. At 16:07, Scharnhorst's lookouts spotted the vessel, and shortly afterward, the ship closed the distance. Engaging at 17:03, Scharnhorst's salvo struck Rawalpindi's bridge at 17:06, resulting in the demise of Captain Edward Coverley Kennedy and most of the officers. Rawalpindi managed to hit Scharnhorst once, inflicting minor splinter damage. By 17:16, Rawalpindi was engulfed in flames and sinking. Admiral Wilhelm Marschall aboard Gneisenau instructed Scharnhorst to rescue survivors. The German ships arrived at Wilhelmshaven on November 27, having endured significant damage from adverse weather conditions during the voyage. Scharnhorst underwent repairs in Wilhelmshaven, including an overhaul of her boilers. Upon completing the repairs, Scharnhorst conducted gunnery training in the Baltic Sea. Between February 18 and 20, she participated in Operation Nordmark, a brief foray into the North Sea that extended as far as the Shetland Islands. Operation Weserubung. She was subsequently assigned to forces participating in Operation Weserubung, the combined invasion of Denmark and Norway. Scharnhorst and Gneisenau were tasked with providing cover for the assaults on Narvik and Trondheim. Between 1425 and 1448 on April 7, the ships were subjected to an unsuccessful aerial attack by 12 bombers to the west of the Scharnhorst. On April 8 at 9:15, the trailing destroyer Bernd von Arnim reported an encounter with a British destroyer, prompting Admiral Lutyens to order Admiral Hipper to investigate at 9:22. Admiral Hipper engaged the British destroyer HMS Glowworm, accurately hitting her with artillery fire. As Glowworm sank, it attempted to ram and damage Admiral Hipper while transmitting a warning message to the British fleet. Following the engagement with Glowworm, Admiral Hipper and her accompanying destroyers set course for Trondheim. At 2200 hours, the 10 destroyers departed for Narvik, while Scharnhorst and Gneisenau positioned themselves south of the Lofoten in the Vestfjorden to cover both landing areas. In the early hours of April 9, the 2 German ships encountered the British battlecruiser HMS Renown. Scharnhorst's navigator sighted gun flashes from Renown firing at Gneisenau around 5 o'clock, prompting the Germans to return fire 3 minutes later. Scharnhorst experienced radar malfunctions that hindered her ability to effectively engage Renown during the battle. By 5:18, Renown shifted her fire to Scharnhorst, which maneuvered to evade the incoming shells. By 7:15, Scharnhorst and Gneisenau managed to utilize their higher speed to escape pursuit by Renown. The swift sailing, combined with rough seas, caused significant water intake forward on both battleships, necessitating a speed reduction to 25 knots. By noon on April 9, Scharnhorst and Gneisenau reached a location northwest of Lofoten, Norway. Over the next 24 hours, they turned west while implementing temporary repairs. Subsequently, the ships changed course to the south. In order to avoid revealing their positions to the British, Scharnhorst launched an Arado 196 floatplane on April 10 at 12 o'clock. Despite its extended range launch, the floatplane managed to transmit its message from the outer Norwegian coast. The plane was later towed to Trondheim, enabling it to relay the order to Admiral Hipper to rejoin the German battleships on their return journey. On that same day, a Royal Air Force patrol aircraft spotted the 3 German ships. Subsequently, 82 RAF Bomber Command aircraft and 9 RAF Coastal Command aircraft were dispatched to attack the German vessels. Poor visibility offered some protection to the German warships, resulting in none of the bombers successfully locating the ships. However, 9 bombers were lost to German fighters. The 3 German ships safely reached Wilhelmshaven by 2200 hours. Scharnhorst returned to Germany and underwent repairs at the Deutsche Worker shipyard in Kiel. Operation Juno. The duo of vessels departed Wilhelmshaven on June 4 to return to Norwegian waters. They were later joined by Admiral Hipper and a group of 4 destroyers. The mission behind this sortie aimed to disrupt Allied attempts to supply the Norwegians and to alleviate the pressure on German forces engaged in combat in Norway. On June 7, the squadron rendezvoused with the refueling vessel Dithmarsken, providing fuel to Admiral Hipper and the accompanying destroyers. The following day, the German forces encountered and sank the British trawler HMT Juniper, along with the oil tanker Royal Pioneer. Utilizing their Arado 196 floatplanes, the Germans launched reconnaissance efforts to locate additional Allied vessels. At 1745, the German battleships sighted the British aircraft carrier Glorious and its 2 accompanying destroyers, Ardent and Acasta, at a distance of approximately 40,000 meters. Scharnhorst commenced firing at Glorious from a range of 26,000 meters at 1832. In just 6 minutes, Scharnhorst scored a hit at a range of 25,600 meters, striking the carrier's upper hangar and igniting a significant fire. Shortly thereafter, a shell from Gneisenau hit the bridge of Glorious, resulting in the demise of the carrier's captain. Despite the efforts of the destroyers to create smoke screens and obscure Glorious, the German battleships were able to track the carrier using their radar. By 1826, the distance between the combatants had shortened to 24,100 meters, prompting Scharnhorst and Gneisenau to unleash full salvos at Glorious. After approximately an hour of intense firing, Glorious was sent to the depths by the German battleships. The 2 accompanying destroyers were also sunk in the engagement. As Acasta succumbed, one of the 4 torpedoes she had launched struck Scharnhorst at 1939. Acasta's 4.7-inch QF guns also managed to hit Scharnhorst's forward super-firing turret, though the damage was negligible. The torpedo impact inflicted substantial harm, creating a 14 by 6 meter hole that allowed 2,500 tons of water to flood into the ship. The rear turret was incapacitated, leading to the loss of 48 crew members. The flooding induced a 5-degree list, increased the stern's draft by nearly a meter, and compelled Scharnhorst to reduce speed to 20 knots. The extent of the damage necessitated Scharnhorst's journey to Trondheim for provisional repairs. A day later, a reconnaissance plane from RAF Coastal Command detected the ship, leading to a bombing raid on June 11 by 12 Hudson bombers. All 36 103 kg armor-piercing bombs missed their target. The Royal Navy subsequently joined the offensive by deploying the battleship Rodney and the aircraft carrier Ark Royal. On June 13, Ark Royal launched 15 Skua dive bombers. However, German fighters intercepted the attackers and managed to shoot down 8 of them. The remaining 7 succeeded in reaching Scharnhorst and launched an attack, but only managed to score a single hit, which failed to detonate. Initial repairs were concluded by June 20. Learning from intercepted British radio communication that the Royal Navy was at sea, Scharnhorst altered course for Stavanger on June 21. The following day, the ship left Stavanger en route to Kiel, where repairs were undertaken, a process lasting approximately 6 months. On the 22nd of February, the pair spotted an empty convoy sailing west, which dispersed at the appearance of the battleships. Scharnhorst managed to sink only one ship during the encounter, the 6,000-ton tanker Lustrous. The two ships encountered convoy SL-67, escorted by the battleship Malaya, on the 8th of March. Lutjens forbade an attack, but he directed U-boats to attack. A pair of U-boats sank a total of 28,488 tons of shipping on the night of 8–9 March. Malaya turned on the two battleships and closed to 24,000 meters, well within the range of the Germans' guns, but Lutjens refused to be drawn into an engagement. He instead turned toward the mid-Atlantic, where Scharnhorst sank the Greek cargo ship Marathon. On the 15th of March, the two battleships, with the two tankers in company, encountered a dispersed convoy in the mid-Atlantic. Scharnhorst sank two ships. Several days later, the main body of the convoy was located, and Scharnhorst sank another 7 ships totaling 27,277 tons. Battle of the North Cape. Amidst the rapidly deteriorating military situation faced by the German army on the Eastern Front, the imperative to disrupt the flow of supplies from the Western Allies to the Soviet Union became increasingly pronounced. By December 1943, the German army found itself in a continuous state of retreat. The Luftwaffe had suffered significant weakening from 4 years of conflict, and the Allied anti-submarine capabilities were progressively eroding the U-boat's effectiveness. In this context, the only boat and asset available to the Germans in Norway was the battleship Scharnhorst. During a meeting with Hitler held on December 19 to the 20th, Großadmiral Karl Dönitz made the decision to employ Scharnhorst against the next Allied convoy that came into sight. Reconnaissance aircraft detected a convoy comprising around 20 transports, escorted by cruisers and destroyers. A U-boat reported the convoy's position at 9 o'clock on December 25, prompting Dönitz to order Scharnhorst into action. In his guidance to Bay, Dönitz recommended that he disengage from the battle if confronted by superior forces but to maintain an aggressive stance. At 3:19, Fleet Command instructed Bay that if rough seas hampered the destroyer's combat capacity, Scharnhorst should carry out the attack independently. Unbeknownst to the Germans, the British were deciphering the encoded Enigma radio transmissions exchanged between Scharnhorst and Fleet Command. Admirals Robert Burnett and Bruce Fraser were privy to Bay's attack strategy against the convoy and were able to position their forces accordingly. Admiral Burnett, in charge of the cruisers Norfolk, Belfast, and Sheffield escorting convoy JW-55B, positioned his vessels between the convoy and the anticipated direction of Scharnhorst's attack. Fraser, with the powerful battleship Duke of York, along with the cruiser Jamaica and 4 destroyers, positioned himself southwest of Scharnhorst to block any potential escape route. In the course of the Battle of the North Cape, the Royal Navy battleship HMS Duke of York, accompanied by her escort vessels, managed to sink the Scharnhorst. Regrettably, a mere 36 individuals survived from the original crew of 1,968. In September of 2000, a collaborative expedition aimed at locating the sunken battleship commenced, involving the BBC, NRK, and the Royal Norwegian Navy. Upon discovering a sizable submerged entity, the research team proceeded to visually inspect the object using an underwater recovery vessel. On September 10, the wreck was definitively identified by a remotely operated vehicle, which identified armaments consistent with those of the Scharnhorst battleship. The vessel had sunk to a depth of approximately 290 meters. The hull rests upside down on the seabed, surrounded by debris including the mainmast and range finders that are scattered throughout the wreck site. Thanks for watching.